right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. 4 reviews up this week. The first one of which is a game called REVO. Neon shoot 'em up to a retro-fueled synthwave soundtrack. You've drifted into a sinister space storm far from civilization. Dark ships quickly close in on you. Rescued by a mysterious symbiotic vessel, your only hope for escape is to equip for combat and fight for your life. REVO is a neon-styled and classically inspired spaceship shoot-'em-up with a original retro-fueled synthwave soundtrack. Inspirations include Galaga, Tron, and The Last Starfighter. If you are a fan of video arcades and science fiction movies of the early 1980s, you'll love this game and find it both familiar and fresh. You've drifted... So... in terms
Kind of sounds like a stop me if you've heard this one thing.
It definitely wears that more on its presentation than its actual gameplay. I'm like, in terms of its, like, it doesn't play like a shmup from the early 80s. Like, it does, like, it has about as much in common with, say, Xevious or Galaga in the orientation. You know, it's a vertical shoot 'em up. That's about it. Like honestly, it reminds me something more akin to, say, Ikaruga than something from the early 80s. At least in terms of the actual shoot part. You know, as the game is proud to announce, it's really diving into that 1980s synthwave aesthetic that you'd think would be tired by now, but apparently not. But it's got a lot of synthwave music, neon colors. The marketing materials were definitely on point there. I'm like, so setting that aside, okay, so this isn't a very good shmup, but it's not very good in a unique way. Like, I really haven't encountered a lot of shmups that are this, and that is bullet spongy. Like outside of the basic enemies, like the bigger ships, like the bosses just go on for way too fucking long.
Fair enough.
You know, like at least in my experience, like no, seriously, like the second boss, I was fighting that for, at least 10, 15 minutes, and it wouldn't die.
Like, yeah, it's usually better if they, if they don't get boring.
Yeah, and like a lot of treasure games, this game is definitely orientated around boss encounters. Like, you see Patty here going through the basic stage. It's nothing too difficult. Also, the more capital ships are fairly bullet spongy as well. It's like you've got to use your higher ammo count, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it was, or like limited web count. I'm not sure if it was something going on there, but my game was much more bullet spongy, and that's not what I really look for in a shoot 'em up. I mean, to a certain extent, sure, you can have bigger enemies take bullets, and bosses are expected to be a bit of a bullet sponge, but they're supposed to move on at a clip that doesn't get boring. Like, and that's what happened to me. Like, I just stopped playing at the second boss encounter. This UFO saucer thing that it did get more challenging, but it didn't get challenging enough for me to care.
And do you upgrade your guns?
So, yes and no, or rather, you get individual guns in each slot. There's like 4 types of ammo. And you can switch them out. you know, and part of the part of the gameplay loop is by destroying enemies, you get your ammo back. That's the little particle things.
Mhm.
I'm like, honestly, it wasn't that much of a interesting gameplay mechanic to make it worthwhile. Like, you know, like you're getting stuff all the time. You know, and you know, it doesn't really provide a strategy, at least not on the basic.
Mhm.
You know, again, the different ammo types here, sure, but because the blue lasers, they're not limited from what I remember. You know, it's the higher stuff, and and this being a shmup, that this is about it in terms of pure gameplay. It's moderately challenging. I would hesitate to call it a bullet hell. Yeah, it's like it does get heavy on the
Bullet hells are when there's like more fire on the screen than there is empty space at some points.
right, or there's it's bullets but laid out as a puzzle game. It's not so much rampantly dodging through bullets. It's figuring out the right pathway. Yeah. That's what last week's Good Night was taking inspiration from. And yeah, like honestly, there's not a lot of personality to this game.
Aside from Neon. Neon
Yeah,
is a personality, isn't it?
It is, but I'm like, I guess that's fairly fresh for a shmup. But I don't know. Like, this game just left me cold. Petty, you've been playing it. What's your thoughts on it?
So far I don't hate it, but I've also been, I'm also fairly early on.
Right. Like I said, I'm not seeing my opinions changing. I will admit I didn't play as much as I expected to because, well, another game really occupied my time this week. But for good cause, because that was a much better game. This is a dead average shmup. Maybe going a bit higher, like say a 5.5 on the true 10-point scale, let's say. Like the presentation does lift it a bit, but outside of that, I don't think I would give this a recommendation to really go out and get. Especially since the game clocks in at $14.99. Once again, I don't think I could recommend this game at $15 when you can get other better shmups on Steam for less or about the same price. Right. And yeah, any other questions, comments, or concerns to add to the Ballad of REVO here?
Not that I can think of.
It certainly looks neon.
Yes, it does.
You must be at least this
Anyway.
neon.
Yeah.
How many ons could a neon be on if a neon could be on a neon?
We can ponder that in the break.
Yes. Anyway, speaking of which, once we come back after the break, the Golics will be reviewing Magic Colors.